Hey guys, Hollywood is a crazy place. Motherhood is a crazy time. My next guest has managed to master both. Here's my conversation with actress Devika Bhise. Devika, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. Okay, we were recently at a party and politics came up because I'm such a fun party guest, right? And you brought up an interesting thing. I mean, there is kind of like a political shift or a very pivotal moment
It's
happening.
Kind of a political shift.
Tell me about
political shift. You know, first of all, I just want to say that I thought it was really great at this party that we were able to have a dialogue where we didn't agree on everything, but these days, if two people don't agree on one thing, it's as if you can't agree on anything. And I think that's really problematic. You know, we were able to talk about a lot of things, agree, not agree, but continue a dialogue. And I think that's why I'm here. I think it's great to talk to people who don't agree with everything that you think.
Yeah. Is that happening in Hollywood? Are people having these across the aisle conversations?
Not across the aisle. And that's why I think echo chambers are really dangerous. But right now in Hollywood, I think people are terrified. People are scared. That's why we were talking about how a lot of people are leaving the country.
Yeah, there were like Richard Gere, Rosie O'Donnell, Eva Longoria, like a number of A-listers have fled the country since Trump took office.
Left the country.
You know?
Yes. I mean, I think it's a moment where people who create art, people who are outspoken about their values and beliefs are at a moment where they are worried that they will be penalized for their opinions, right? And whether it's being deported or being imprisoned or anything, I think no one really knows where this is going to go. And so there's a lot of hesitation right now about what is safe to actually say, what art is safe to actually make. And I think it remains to be seen how it's going to go.
When you say make like content, are we talking like scripts and shows?
Yeah, I think at least that's the world that I'm in.
Yeah.
A lot of networks, for example, are re-examining their DEI policy, right? And I think at the end of the day, whether you call it DEI or Office of Opportunity, right? I mean, people are just finding loopholes and ways to make it so they can continue to do the things that they're doing without being penalized.
Are you seeing certain projects get greenlit that wouldn't normally get greenlit, or are people reconsidering projects that they were working on?
Yes, the latter is definitely happening. What makes it
an example? Is it just like the wording of the script or the idea of the project?
The idea, everything. It's an interesting moment because we also are coming off of an economic downturn because the writers and the actors went on strike, right? And so every studio is tightening their belt straps and making sure that they don't put too much content out there that's going to impact their bottom line, right? Because everyone lost a lot of money during this time where everyone was not working. So I think it's a double, triple whammy effect. And everyone's kind of bracing themselves for an economic downturn as well. So no one wants to take those risks. So raising money for indie films has always been very difficult, but it continues to be. And that having been said, having been in this game for over a decade, I guess now, this too shall pass is kind of my feeling about it. Things always go up and down, and you just have to wait until the next upturn. But we are kind of in a barren moment.
So you split your time between Hollywood and New York?
I've been in New York. I mean, I was born and raised here, so this will always be my home. And then I go where the jobs are, you know. So I was on a show for Netflix that shot in Vancouver. I shot in LA for 9 months 2 years ago when I was on a show there for ABC, the Rookie Feds, and the Rookie as well, which is also at Paramount in LA. And I've shot everywhere from India, Ouazzazate, Morocco, all kinds of places. Puerto Rico.
After you shoot in California for so long, you come back to New York. This is like a totally different culture. It's a totally different world on the East Coast.
Yes.
What do you notice?
Okay, the wildest thing I noticed, and this happened when I was in LA for a really long stretch, is walking down the street in Manhattan. And first of all, in LA, you can't really walk down any street, right? So that's, first of all, wonderful, again, to be able to do that. But seeing faces that look different, you're laughing, but seeing everyone with different noses, different ears, different lips was actually kind of astounding to me, because I had been there for long enough that I think I was just glazed over with this idea that everyone has the same nose. And I it's not even some generalized thing. You just see it so often. I think plastic surgery is more common in LA, and it's, once you see enough of it, you become blind to it in a way. And of course, it's just where I was and who I was with and all of that.
You come back to New York and you're like, oh wait, that's what a nose looks like.
That's what that's what a nose who doesn't look like Kim Kardashian's nose looks like.
Everyone has the same plastic surgeon
everyone must
in
have
LA.
the same plastic surgeon. Everyone has Botox. Yeah. Everyone is doing the same things. And I enjoy that people here look very different, you know.
It is such a plastic surgery, body image situation going on in Hollywood and LA. What's your take on Ozempic? We see all these actors and actresses with Ozempic allegations. It's like, did they or didn't they?
I don't know why anybody cares. Take Ozempic, don't take Ozempic. You know, I just had a baby, and a few months after I had given birth, a lot of people said to me, you know, like, oh, it's so great. It's so clear that you're not on Ozempic. And I was like, what? That's
so offensive in a way.
But no, thank you. You're just saying it's clear I haven't lost the kind of weight that you do when you take a weight loss.
Like, wow, you're so brave that you haven't taken
Ozempic.
Yeah.
No, I think everyone should do what they want. I think when I start feeling upset about this kind of thing is when it impacts young girls and teenagers. And I remember being 12, 13, 14, and looking at women who have had plastic surgery or have taken Ozempic or whatever it is, and thought, you know, why don't I look that way? And I think that's when it can be quite damaging. But if you want to take Ozempic, it's your body, your choice. Do what you want to do.
Right.
But I personally think that I hope we're going to move in a direction where it's interesting to see people of all different body types with all different types of noses on your TV. And I'm hoping that we will get there. But because of Instagram and TikTok and all of these things, everyone has that filter, which actually does make them look exactly the same, even if you don't have the plastic surgeon do it for you.
I feel like people are taking that filter to their plastic surgeon saying, I want to look like this.
I've heard that people actually do that.
That's wild.
Yeah. So,
you know, you just finished, or the Recruit season 2 just launched on Netflix. Congratulations, by the way. You play this very buttoned up CIA agent with a wild side, Juno Marsh. Oh, and I also read that you'd just given birth when you started filming. You were 6 weeks postpartum?
3 weeks postpartum. I was.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Well, so the show was supposed to shoot earlier, but then because of the actors' strike, it got pushed. So I think we were supposed to shoot when I was early in my pregnancy. And then it just got pushed right. I just had the baby and was like, well, here we go. So the team was fantastic in that I was able to fly back and forth every time I had to go shoot because I was nursing, I was pumping.
You had to fly with breast milk?
I had to fly with breast milk. I had my Yeti cooler and my pumps and the thing. It was a whole thing. And I had to argue with TSA every single time, being like, breast milk is allowed in my carry-on. And then, you know.
But they're like, it has to be 3 ounces?
They would either say that or someone, I think a couple of times I was stopped and they were like, you can only travel with breast milk if you have your infant with you. And I would be like, why would I have this much breast milk in my Yeti cooler if my infant were with me? Like, it would be in his stomach. But anyway.
It's kind of crazy that you have to explain that.
Every single time. I know I'd have like printouts. I'd just be armed with, my battle armor to kind of argue with, whoever was there. But the creator, Alexi Hawley, is incredible, and he has worked with moms a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So he knows the whole deal of being able to work while also having a small baby, which I think a lot of people in the industry don't care so much. They're like, well, it's annoying to work with you now. So.
But I mean, enlighten us too also with kind of the emotions that you're going with postpartum. You've got so many emotions. You're acting. You're having to tap into emotions in for your character on the show. How did you manage all that?
I think you just put one foot in front of the other. Is when everyone was asking me, how are you? Because I was also not sleeping, because you have to pump every, 90 minutes on a 24-hour cadence, because that is when your baby nurses at that age. And so I was running on just adrenaline, cortisol, epinephrine, like whatever
was healing you.
We're going through. Yeah. But again, what I realized on that set is so many people are secretly moms. And I say secretly because I've been on sets and it doesn't come up and no one talks about their kids, and why would you? You're there for your job. But as soon as anyone realized I was pumping or I just had a baby or any of that thing, it became clear everyone in the trailer was a mom. And they were like, let me help you with your mom.
It becomes a community.
It absolutely was. Everyone was so, so helpful. Like every actor was just like, how can I help you make sure that I wasn't overdoing it? Because I had a C-section. So I was, very raw in all the ways, right? And so everyone was really lovely, and I feel lucky that I was able to do that, because I know not everyone has had that.
It's amazing
experience. Yeah,
it kind of goes back to the conversation of like, life, your personal life goes on amid your professional life, but it's harder for women.
I think it is harder for women, whether you're a mother or not. Every time you go to any set, there's that extra layer of being congenial and being lovely, which everyone should do. It just, in my experience, men, the only people I know who have gotten away with not being that way have been men. Whereas a woman, as soon as, if any little small thing, they say they're just labeled as something awful, And so I think there's just a higher standard for women. That being said, if you conduct yourself in a way that people want you to come back, they will ask you to come back. And I think the proof is in the pudding. Over a decade of work, so much of it, I've been very, very lucky, but so much of it has been people asking me back because they know I won't cause drama on their sets. And when you have a show that is an expensive network television show, any drama is so expensive, right? Just think about every day of shooting is just so much money that is being spent on that. So if any actor is taking the time of not knowing their lines, not hitting their mark, having an issue with their hair and makeup that makes it so that everyone has to, pause for however long it is, that is their bottom line that you are messing with.
Time is money.
Time is money, yeah. And so it's a different skill set to go on a set like that versus to go on a set where you're shooting in some village in a very small regional area where you're just really getting into character and you have the camera right here and you learn that your dad has just died and then they, capture every emotion, right? That's a different kind of skill, and there's joy in doing that, not joy in that specific, but it's part of why I became an actor, of course.
Why is that not as high stakes as maybe doing something on Netflix?
Because if you don't get it, you can do it again.
You have more flexibility.
Yeah, you have more flexibility, and I think you are working with a smaller crew. You're working with a smaller group of people who you've been spending every day with, and so it's like this family where you have this space and time to really be in that character. You're often in, period clothing, and so you're really in that character. Yeah. Whereas for a higher budget project, you're in and out, right? There's not as much rehearsal often. You're just expected to arrive, know your lines, be a pro, and then leave.
What, do they email you your lines, or how does it work?
Yeah, they email you your lines kind of often day before, 2 days before. Often there are changes day of. Writers are on set, and you are expected to be word perfect because it's their writing, right? There are a lot of other projects where they want you to improv. They want you to, have your own take on it. Whereas for larger projects, they have everything cleared with legal, right? So you actually have to say it exactly the way it's written.
I see.
Otherwise.
So what do you do when you get it in an email? You open it up. Are you practicing in the mirror? What's your process?
I don't practice in the mirror. I read it a few times. I say it out loud. I kind of think of when I'm saying something, what. Right. So let's say I'm talking about a person I think of as someone else in my mind who I can be thinking of that is akin to what my actor is thinking of.
So
right?
like if you're running an investigation on a CIA agent gone rogue, how do you get into that mindset of like, okay, I'm going to be investigating something?
I think now, because I was that character for so long, she was... Right, I had that in me. I could just like drop into her, and I had an accent. Right.
Yep.
It was just she was a fabulous character, and that lived in me for so long. And that's why I think when these shows end, it's really, really sad because you lose that character who was a part of you that you got
lose
to
a
play
piece
with.
of yourself.
You do. You lose a piece of yourself. So I think for those shows, it just grows, right? And the writers added things based on what I did with the character. My accent was this combination of she was born in Paris, grew up in London, went to uni in Switzerland, and then was in LA for the last 10 years. And I based it off of people I knew who had that kind of like European background.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to do an accent that was too like Pepe Le Pew. So I wanted it to be a little more approachable. But then after I did that, they kind of added some of that backstory later to kind of explain why and how I was doing things.
Do you call up those friends and kind of practice it with them and say, is it believable? I mean, are you really doing that?
So for the accents, I make them read every line that I have to say and send it to me. And then after
your friends who's got the accent that you want to emulate.
Yes.
You have them read the lines.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And then after I've learned them, then I hear their audio note and just get that in my mouth a little bit. For the rookie feds, Esther Perel, do you know? She's a couples therapist, and she is French. And I would just listen to her podcast. She also has a podcast. And I would just listen to her speak and just get that vocal, range in my mouth, just the placement of your tongue and your teeth and your lips and that. And I would just keep that
in. And you can see that from how she's talking?
You can hear it.
You hear it, and then you're able to kind of just practice it.
And there was some words, right? And for every accent, there are certain words that can help you kind of drop into that accent. And so for hers, I'm trying to think of what were like some of the perfect words. But I think knowing what those words are and then saying those, and then you're in. Drop in immediately, and then you're like, okay, now everything is in my mouth in that way, and so then I can say anything.
I think right now everyone's watching White Lotus. We're all like, tsunami.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure that was probably her, drop-in word.
It is so interesting, the process behind it. I mean, it's like you're researching the lines. It's so high pressure because then you have to nail it right there and then on set.
Yeah, and I think the difference between television and film and a theater, and a lot of people say the theater is harder because obviously you have to know all of your lines. You have to do it in one day, But I love theater. I haven't done it in a long time because I've been doing so much on camera work. But that what is coming out of your mouth and what is happening in your body is what people are seeing. with television and film, you don't know what take they're going to use. You don't know, right? And it's often the take where someone else is, right? There's so many other things going on that until it comes out, you're often in the dark about how it's going to be cut together.
Yeah.
So that's the other reason why you kind of have to nail it every single time, because they might, you're not important enough, right? Like often you're not important enough that they're going to choose your best take. They're going to choose the take that works, you know, in the grander scheme. And so you just have to really nail it every time.
Were you happy with how you were portrayed in The Recruit? Like, were you happy with the takes that they picked and everything?
Yeah. I was happy with it. It's always interesting seeing how it's cut together
based on like the different cameras and the shots they end up taking.
Yeah, exactly. But again, I knew the people on that team, and I knew I would be like taken care of. We had to do one reshoot just because, again, I just had a baby and the angle was apparently not very flattering.
Oh, well, that, I mean, at least they were like, but they, in your best interest.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
It's like, I'm going to take care of you and not have something on camera that you are going to look at later being like, why didn't they tell me that it looked like this?
That's after having a baby, have you felt like you are, you know, getting calls more for, you know, being like a motherhood type role, mother role?
Yeah, I think I'm not sure if it's having a baby or just like getting older, right? There's this thing where women, and I think this is continuing to change, of course, but there's this idea of the younger woman can marry the older guy, right? But then as soon as you age out of like 20s, then it's like, well, now you're the mom or like the grandmother, the teacher, the lawyer, whatever. But the main character, right, is often that younger woman. And it's complicated because the actors who've done a lot more, who can show up on set and know their lines and like been there, done that, are often older. And I think that's why in television, a lot of those leads are older women, older compared to the like 22-year-old, you know, ingenue.
Yeah.
Which is great because you see these women and they are perfect, right? They have had a career of just doing this again and again and again, and they do not mess up. They know everyone's name on set. Yeah, well-oiled. Exactly. And if you're number one on any of these shows, it is up to you to make sure that everyone's having a great day. Like I call actors the clowns of the set, like jesters. It's like 2 p.m. Everyone is tired, right? A great lead actor is the person who is telling jokes, like making everyone happy, keeping everyone kind of
so
up
they're
and
also
at 'em.
lifting morale behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Because then you're going to get the call back. Is that
Well, I think
you're a good team player?
I don't know how much time you spend around actors, but it can be annoying, right? We're all like bada bing, bada boom, kind of like so much energy, always like telling jokes and performing and whatever.
You are the life of the party, I will say.
I think, and it's annoying, but I think that type of personality actually works really well on a set, and it plays a role.
Is that exhausting?
Yes, especially with other actors. Being around, as an actor, being around other actors is exhausting. And then we like get off each other, you know, the energy, and then we're all crazy versions of ourselves. It's too much.
You go home and you're like, do you just want to be chill? And
Yes, I just want to stare at the ceiling and not talk to anyone or not be touched, right? Like when I'm working on a show, and I'm sure you might feel this way as well. It's like so many people are touching you all the time. It's like last looks, hair, makeup, like the costume, everyone, like mic, everyone's
putting on the mic, everything.
Yeah, so sometimes you're like, don't touch me.
I understand that. I get that.
Overstimulation.
I get it. Like you just want to. What was like after you were shooting like The Recruit and you come back to New York? Like, did you book yourself like a spa treatment? I mean, you're still getting touched, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Well, again, and I think because I was nursing at that time, and there was so much happening with my body, And I was dealing with the mom guilt of, leaving my baby and coming back. And will this impact him forever that I was gone for, 24 hours at a time or whatever it was? Like, will he be, some horrible person will remember, like, oh, when I was 3 weeks old, my mother left me. And again, every mom I knew was so helpful with that, being like, he does not, like, he is loved for, he is cared for, he has your mom, he has your husband, he has like so many people caring for him. But now, right, the older he gets, I can start to see that it actually gets harder, which everyone also told me, because once they're old enough to be like, I miss mommy, where is mommy? Then your heart breaks, right? You're like, well, but I think it's important for our kids, but I have a son, right? So I think especially for our boys to know that he has a mother who works and who has a career and who has been doing this long before he was around and like will continue to. So it's just about finding that balance and not being too hard on your own self about it, which I think has been the hardest thing for me. I'm my own worst critic.
Yeah. But it's great that you have a support system around you to tell you that,
Absolutely.
you have a community around you.
Moms have been amazing.
Yeah.
They really have been. And, I feel lucky that I've had a career that, I'm still here. Somehow people are still hiring me.
You're so good. What are you talking about?
But like after a while, you wonder, like at some point you're in your early 20s and you're like, I want to start acting.
Yeah.
I've been in a couple of plays. I've been in a couple of shows. And then time just passes. And then you look back and you're like, oh, I've had a career. That's kind of fun.
So on that note, what's next for you? Like, what are you gravitating towards? Because you talked about TV, you talked about film, theater. What's next for you?
I love theater. I hope to get back very soon. I have a couple of movie projects in the works that are, indie films that are still being funded, as we were talking about. And then I'm also writing. I'm writing a psychological horror about the early days of motherhood, which is all I'm going to say. But anyone who's been there knows it's not too much of a stretch.
Yeah. The horrors are endless, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Well, I can't wait to see what's next for you and to learn more about your projects. And I'm sure writing also has to be something that you tap into a different skill set and you can really get creative.
Yeah, I've done a lot of it in my past. I went through a period where I was working a lot. And so I kind of put the writing on hiatus. But it's been really great to get back to it and exercise that creative muscle.
Yeah. You're amazing, Dev.
You're amazing.
Thank you so much for coming on. It's great to talk to you.
Yeah, you too.